Welcome to a large model Showman'S engine. This is part 82. It was a video that I wasn't going to make, but I had to finish the job, so I thought I may as well video it. In this episode I ran out of carbide tip inserts because I never had many to start with. I did have one flash of inspiration, but it didn't work. Changing the lathe tools and carrying on regardless. Moving the job to my Boxford lathe for the outer finishing cuts. In order to make this section of the series all about making an ornamental cylinder cover to fit over the original cylinder cover, I thought I would start with an oversized piece of stainless steel, and I really have regretted this. The amount of machining on this oversized piece of stainless steel for the size of the cover I need to end up with was, to say the least, very tedious. I am not a natural born machinist. I actually do not like machining. I find it very boring and tend to rush it at any opportunity. The few carbide tips that I had were worn to start with. Here's one of them, which is now worn on every facet and is worse than useless, but then I had an idea. Why not put two smaller carbide tips together and clamp them in place as shown? This was not successful, so I put the carbide tips back in the box. I found a carbide tip insert in a box, and one of the surfaces was still sharp. The amount of swarf that this job is creating is quite incredible. Whenever I see this amount of metal swarf, it reminds me of the playhouse that I put in the garden at my other house. My daughters were very young at the time, and I needed to make a concrete base for the playhouse, so I used swarf mixed in with the concrete to make the base. And when I demolished the playhouse because it was not in good condition after 26 years, the base was perfect. I'm making a rod for my own back with this job because I run my lathes with slack belts, which means that I cannot take very heavy cuts like I used to. The belts slip, the work slows down, and then the lathe tool jams. But the good thing about using slack belts, and they're not that slack, they're just slightly slack. Apart from it reminds me of some previous girlfriends, I do less damage to the machines. I get there in the end. As you can see, the finish is quite good. The final machining job in this lathe is to remove part of the front face, but leave a boss in the centre, and you'll see why later on in the video. As I've mentioned a few times previously, this job took a long time. To make it a little bit quicker, I'm running the video at high speed in the editor. The good news so far is I've only cut myself twice removing the swarf. I don't remove it by hand, I use a pair of grips, but occasionally I do catch my hand in it. Here's the job so far, and the hard part is over with. Most of the machining is finished to quite a good standard. Now what I need to do is take this part over to my Boxford lathe, and after clamping it in the chuck by the boss that I left on the front of it, I'm supporting the rear part with a live centre. I have to remove quite a lot of metal from around the edge of this part, and currently I'm using entirely the wrong lathe tool, which is creating quite a lot of very fine swarf, but the finish on the part is good. The carbide tip on this tool is sharp, and I can even take deeper cuts. However, to speed up the job, I'm going to use this tool. As you can see, this is a round-nosed tool, but it's pointing in the wrong direction. By using this tool and rotating the tool post, it allows me to get a much better image on camera of the work. Because one of the problems I have frequently is that the tool holder is in the way. In this clip I'm using this round-nosed tool to cut in the opposite direction. It doesn't really matter which way you cut, provided that the work is supported in the chuck, and this of course is supported by the live centre, so it's not going anywhere. At this stage I needed to remove quite a lot of material from around the outer edge of the stainless steel. It was ironic that I've been waiting quite a long time for this to happen, and it finally happened near the end of the job. The swarf caught up in the chuck, and the chuck spun it round violently. You must never stand in line with the chuck when machining, because getting hit in the face by all this swarf travelling at a high speed is not funny. And look what I used to remove it. a pair of Barco grips. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Barco, I just buy their products because they're very good. To edit video, I use a program that runs on a Mac computer called Final Cut Pro, and here, ironically, is the final cut of the part. I'm running the lathe at quite a high speed, and I'm cutting from left to right. This gives a very good finish because the right hand side of a carbide tip tool has not done much work, so it's sharp. This small Myford 8mm tool is very good, and the finish is really nice on this. The outer edge of the cylinder cover is completed by using a piece of Scotch-Brite, and it's really shiny. I can almost see my face in it, which is never a good thing. I didn't want a polished finish, I wanted a finely machined surface, and I think I've achieved that. And as for the swarf, which is everywhere near the lathes, I've filled 5 carrier bags with it. The final part of the job will be to change the jaws in my 4-jaw self-centering chuck in the Smart & Brown. Then I need to hold this part with the 4 jaws of the chuck from the inside so I can turn away the boss on the front and chamfer the outer edge. That's it for this video. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.